Good evening. My name is Johnny from Club Rum. Welcome to this tasting with brand ambassador, global brand ambassador for Black Tot Rum, Mr. Mitch Wilson. I've been looking forward to this tasting for a long time because of the rum and because of Mitch. He's very knowledgeable when it comes to rum and especially, of course, Black Tot and the whole history of Black Tot. So I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, put it down in the chat, and I will forward to Mitch at some point in during his presentation. And again, enjoy. Mitch, take it away.
Thanks so much, Jenny. Well, yeah, as we are a smaller group as well, if we hit anything tonight and you want to dig more into it, or yeah, we touch on any topics and you go, okay, let's really deep dive into that. Today is a good place to do that. I'm guessing we've got. Is everyone here a rum nerd? Is there anyone starting their rum journey or sort of like in rum curious? Yeah. Oh no, just jumped straight in. But yeah, I think sometimes I find it interesting. We do hundreds of masterclasses every year, right? And there's so many topics that we talk about in the rum world, and sometimes we touch on things and everyone goes, yeah, we know what that is. So like, do we really? Have you really gone into it? Have you really sort of knuckled down into it? So I quite like when we do have a more specialized group like this and a smaller group, if we touch on something, just let me know. You can either throw it in the chat or give us a
Raise
wave
your hand or something. Yeah.
and something. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I think I've met some of you already, but if we haven't met before, so yeah, my name's Mitch. I've worked with Black Tot now since January 2020. Before that, I was an ambassador for 3 years for Maison Ferrand, so plantation rum over in Asia and Australia. And before that, I was a bartender for several years. I started at a bar in London called Trailer Happiness, which some of you may be familiar with. It's if ever you get a chance to go to London, go to Trailer. It's one of the world's great rum bars. And that's kind of where my journey started, probably 13, 14 years ago in drinks. And then because of working at Trailer, I was always leaning more towards rum than anything else, and that's really became my sort of specialty and my interest and my passion. I live in Amsterdam. If ever you guys are in Amsterdam, come and help me drink some of this because it's now spilling onto the floor as well. It's we are well and truly out of shelf space here, so it's getting a little much.
Be careful what you wish for and what you say.
Yeah. But so what I'll do is I'm going to throw up some slides. We'll go through the tasting. We'll go through a little bit of history. We'll go through a little bit of geeky stuff. I've tried to throw in some things which you may not have seen before as well. And as I say, anything we touch on that you want to go into more detail on, very, very happy to do that today. So let's see if that comes up. Can you guys see that? Yeah, is it working? All right. Let's see if I
Yes.
can bigger. Mm. All right, cool. So this is Trailer where I used to work back in the day. They've had a little bit of a revamp since then, but we used to have about 350 rums on the back bar, which, as you know, for a cocktail bar is unusual. Normally you might have 200 whiskeys, 100 gins, 50 vodkas, and then like 5 shitty rums in the corner. Trailer was the complete opposite to that. Everything you see is rum. They had one shelf around the back that you had to go into the kitchen for, which had like one bottle of vodka, one bottle of gin, one bottle of whiskey, just if you had a really awkward customer. If someone asked for wine, it's like, no, we're a rum bar. That's what we do. And this was a place that I really fell in love with rum because, I'd grown up in a classy part of England called Essex. You may have heard of it. They make TV shows about how classy we are there. And the best rums I'd ever had were, spice rum and Coke or Bacardi and Coke. I didn't know rum was this high-end spirit that could be enjoyed neat. And and we drank a lot of it there on the bar. That's how we kind of learnt. Um, and there was a magic to rum that made me fall in love with it. You know, all the drinks come out, 50 garnishes, everything's on fire. The roof, in fact, was like a copper-plated roof. And if it was quiet on a Friday night and we needed to get everyone up and dancing, the bartenders would grab a bottle of Ray and Nephew, so 63% overproof. They'd give themselves a layback, light their hand on fire, and then breathe out an 8 meter fireball of rum across that copper roof. So all those black marks you see, they're actually scorch marks from the rum, and it would all be going green and blue with the copper, and everyone's jumping up, dancing like, what the fuck is going on, right? It's completely illegal, okay? Um, and this was just, you know, you don't see that at other types of bars, right? You don't go to a whiskey bar and see someone breathing out cask strength whiskey across the room, or, you know, you don't see that at gin bars. There's a magic to the rum world that you don't get with anything else. And it's a blessing and a curse because sometimes, you know, people don't move beyond that. They see rum as their fun drink, their holiday drink, their island drink. Um, Even now, you know, I go to bars. I went to one yesterday. Well, it's going to be one of the best bars in the world opening up. And, you know, the bar manager was like, yeah, yeah, but look at our rum selection, you know, like he's a big rum lover himself. He's like, we need to get better rum in here. And it's a fight for him, you know, he has to fight with the hotel, he has to fight with these places, being like, no, we need more good rum if people are going to come in here and appreciate, you know, how good a bar this can be. So Trailer was a really special place in my heart. It's still going today, 25 years in now. It's kind of like I guess like the rumor of Rotterdam that this was the OG in London 25 years ago that was kicking rum off as a scene there. Now, what we're going through today, we've got pretty much everything you're tasting tonight is a blend, is one of our Black Tot blends. But I did throw in one individual component today, which is the Trinidad that we've added to our Black Tot Finest Caribbean, because sometimes what we'll do is we'll do a deconstruction of Black Tot. I know some of you may have done this with me before, where we do like all of the individual components in the rum. We only had 6 slots in the tasting pack, so we chose one component to sort of just show you what we've changed in between the old Finest Caribbean blend and the new one, and then everything else is a blend. Now, let's talk about rum blending for a second, because I think, you know, in one hand, Amsterdam is the home of rum blending in the world right now, right? We have E&A Shear here. It's the largest body of rum outside of the Caribbean. They've got thousands and thousands and thousands of liters of rum from, you know, 50, 60 different distilleries going there. And this idea of blending different countries of rum together, this only exists in the rum world. And I think probably everyone knows that subconsciously on some level, but you don't have this in whiskey, you don't have this in gin, you don't have this in vodka. Like if I say this is a blend of, you know, Barbados, Guyana, and Jamaica, that would be the same as me saying this is a blend of bourbon, of Irish, and some peated Islay Scotch. And whiskey people would be like, what the hell are you doing? You know, why are you blending all these countries together? But in rum, we've done it for the last 200 years at least. And it's become such a standard part of our rum thinking. You know, if you see a cocktail and it's got 3 rums in, 4 rums in, 5 rums in, you don't think anything of it. You just think, of course, why wouldn't you have 5 different rums in this cocktail? But you probably don't have enjoying Peter's cat coming into the show. um, you know, you don't have that with whiskey. You've probably never had a 3 whiskey old fashioned or a 4 gin martini, right? It only exists in the rum world. So let's have a little look at why that is. This, by the way, if you don't recognize it, this is from Main Rum in Liverpool, which has one of the largest selections of single casks of rum in the world. It's quite a fun story as well. Has anyone seen Peaky Blinders before? The TV show? Yeah. So if you've ever watched Peaky Blinders, you should watch it. It's a great show. If you ever watch Peaky Blinders, in there, the season 2, season 3, they start buying some of the rum barrels from this gangster guy, Alfie, played by Tom Hardy. And that's actually filmed here in Main Rum. It's a real rum cellar. It's actually filmed here in Liverpool. And the film crew, when they came in, if you see on the bottom left, you've got like a tag on the barrel that tells you where and when and what that barrel is, has a code for every barrel. The film crew saw that and they went, well, that's not very historically accurate. So they went around and took all of the labels off all of the barrels for the filming. And then the team came in on the Monday morning. They were like, where's all, where's all the tickets for the barrels? And they're like, oh, we got rid of them. They're over there somewhere. And they're like, so they had to go through every single cask that you see on that show, work out what it all was, reattach all the labels. So if you ever get a weird tasting single cask of rum, it's probably the Peaky Blinders' fault.
That's fun.
So so let's go a little bit into Navy history here and sort of look at why did rum blending start in the first place? Why did this all begin? So if we look at here, this is an old sort of panorama of London back in the late 1700s, that kind of era. And this is the River Thames. You see this, it's a mess, right? You've got all of the ships, they're all over the place. There's no like, each one of them is just trying to get dock space to offload its cargo that it's pillaged and brought over from the Caribbean and from the Americas. So they'll be bringing in, you know, sugar, spices, rum, everything that is these exotic ingredients which they're colonizing the world for at this time. But it's chaos, and your ship might be waiting up to 12 weeks just to offload all the cargo. And if you're sitting in the Thames for 12 weeks, you're running a skeleton crew because you're not going to pay everyone to stay on board. How much of your cargo survives that 12 weeks, right? It either goes rotten because it's lasted too long if it's fresh. It either gets eaten or drunk, or it gets sold off the side of a ship. So a lot of these ships were losing huge amounts of money, not just because they were stuck there, but because half their cargo disappeared. So they had this problem, and a lot of the merchants, a lot of these ship owners, slave traders, all sorts of people, all of these kind of guys banded together at that time, and they said, we need a more efficient docking system to bring all of this rum into the UK. So they got together and they put together these plans for the West India docks. And you can see, so rather than having this sort of like just coming through the river, you had this system where they could flow 12 different ships in at a time, cargo in, cargo out, turn them around, get them back out, and basically speed up this whole process. Now, why this is relevant to our story with Navy Rum is just a little way down the river, down in Deptford, they did a similar warehouse system for the Navy, but specifically just for all the Navy goods. So they called them Victualling warehouses, and that's where they'd have rum, but also weapons, uniforms, boots, all of the supplies that they would need for the Navy would be there in Deptford. And they built similar warehouses in Portsmouth, Plymouth, Scotland, in some of the major docks around the UK. But West India Dock at its time was revolutionary. You know, this is where the first industrial revolution of warehousing and logistics really started in this cargo import export. And what that looked like was this. So these ships could come in, they would come in, they'd offload all the cargo that they brought in. They could turn around in that little sort of turning circle at the bottom, come back in, reload, get all the stuff that they were going to export somewhere else. And then all of them, boom, 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 go out the river, and it kept the whole thing rolling. There was they paid for all the security, they paid for all the guards, they paid for everything. And this was all done by these merchants and traders at the time. And as part of this, one of the warehouses they built, or three of the warehouses actually that they built, was called Rum Key. And this was where they kept all of the rum separate to all of the other goods that were coming in and out, because they knew if the rum caught fire, it would be bad news, right? And everything would go up. So they kept the rum separate. Um, and it was pretty impressive. Like a huge amount of rum was coming into the UK at the time. And you've got to think this is around 1804, 1805, where all of this is starting to happen. Rum was considered but far and away a much more superior spirit to whiskey, to gin, to anything else. Like rum was made from this exotic material, sugar, which was worth its weight in gold at the time. It was coming from this faraway land that you had to sail for weeks and weeks to get to. And people regarded rum for a good 100 years or so as, wow, this is something really special. Whiskey, that was the cheap local stuff. Gin, that's what people got drunk on, It's like didn't have the same prestige that rum had. And I think it's interesting because you look at today and most people think of rum as, oh, it's yeah, for pirates, it's for tiki drinks, it's for this, for that. Rum has lost its status symbol, but back in this era, rum was a luxury item. So Rum Key, London Dock Rum, this began the sort of idea of blenders, of bottlers, of people, and it was never really about, oh, it's come from this distillery, it's come from Hampton, or it's come from Worthy Park, or whatever it is. It was like, no, this is Lamb's brand, or this is Old Wood, or this is this. The blender or the bottler would be, it was their name that made that brand special, and then where the rum came from was kind of less consequential. They might say, oh, it's Demerara or it's Jamaica or something like that, but certainly never getting into the distillery or who made it or how it was made or any of that kind of stuff. That was two or three steps removed. And we've kind of had that same hangover for the last 200 years, this hangover from colonialism, right? Where colonial products tend not to have their terroir, their origin, as closely attached as perhaps we would like it, right? So, as rum lovers, we look very closely at this stuff, right? We go, okay, right, we pick up a bottle, where's it coming from? What's the origin? What's the distillery? What's the mark? All this stuff. But for most people, rum is still white, gold, and dark, right? You're like, what the fuck does that mean? Tells you nothing, right? Okay. White gold dark, okay, or English, Spanish, French, okay, just leaning into that colonialism even more. It's like we have to get better. We have to get more specific with all these things. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but you see this with everything that came out of the colonies at the time. Chocolate. People love chocolate. Do they know where their cocoa comes from? Probably not, right? Uh, Tobacco. Tobacco is an interesting one because tobacco has two sides to it. If you're a cigar smoker, like most of you are, tobacco has a really strong link to the terroir, to the region, to who wrapped it, who grew it. Like everything about the tobacco is kind of very transparent with cigars. But if you're a cigarette smoker, you probably have a really strong opinion on which brand of cigarette you smoke, but you have no idea where the tobacco comes from. You have no idea who made it. Like it's pure brand and marketing rather than quality, right? And that's sort of an interesting one that's in the midst of the two. Um, so yeah, chocolate, tobacco, rum. Coffee is probably the only thing that's really transcended this, right? Enough people gave a shit about coffee that they started asking, where's this coming from? And now you can go anywhere to these single origin baristas and find, different, this washed bean or this fermentation and this and that. And you'll find enough people that care about coffee that you can have that conversation in almost any city in the world now, which is quite impressive. And that's happened in our lifetimes, right? Like when I was a kid, my parents drank Nescafe Gold Blend because it was better than the red blend. Where does the coffee come from? No fucking idea, right? But it was just in our lifetime that coffee world has completely changed. And it really just comes down to people asking the questions, finding out where it's coming from and looking a little deeper. But you go back to this era, 1700s, 1800s, you probably didn't want to know where it was coming from most of the time. You probably didn't want to ask too many questions. It probably wasn't a pretty story, right? Like all of this was birthed out of slavery, colonialism, one of the darkest times of human history. So it kind of makes sense that they wanted to detach from that origin and from who was really making these products at the time. But we're in a different era now, and we kind of need to go back and give credit to these places. So this era, when they were bringing all the rum in and doing the London Dock Rum and creating the Navy blend, this is where it started to change up a little bit because the Navy were drinking a huge amount of rum, right? They were drinking about 18 million liters of rum per year, which is insane. If that was a rum brand today, it'd be one of the world's biggest rum brands. Yeah, 18 million liters. There are most distilleries today would struggle to make more than 5 or 10 million liters of alcohol a year. So, if that's the case in 2025, in the 1800s, trying to get 18 million liters of rum is impossible. So, how do you do it? How do you get enough rum for all of the fleet? Well, you buy everything you can from Barbados, from Guyana, from Jamaica, from Trinidad, and you just blend it all together. Okay, so this idea of doing a multi-country blend, it didn't come from, some master blender being like, oh, yes, needs a splash more Jamaica, right? Sprinkle in some DOK, right? Like that wasn't happening. It was pure, we need 18 million liters of rum. How do we get enough of it? And they threw it all together. But over time, they realized, if we add too much Jamaica, it does this. If we add too much of this rum, it does this. And they worked out different flavors, different rums, created different effects in the blend. And so over time, they became these sort of masters of going, oh, actually, if we do it in this ratio, the fleet likes it a lot more. They actually said at the end of the 1800s, stop adding Jamaica rum to the blend. The sailors don't like it. It's too funky, it's too intense. So they actually cut Jamaica for a good few years. Now, these guys in the picture, there's a couple of little clues and things to watch out for here. So the guy third in holding the wicker flagon, that's a flagon of Navy rum, 4.5 liters. I know there's a couple of empty ones bouncing around in the group here. So this would have had Navy rum, but they also used these flagons for sugar, for coffee, for all different types of things, but we had specific rum ones. The guy in the middle with the black book, he's the purser or the pusser. So he was basically the accountant on the ship. He would have everyone's name. He would know whether you'd been naughty or nice and whether you got your rum ration for the day, because rum was part of your payment as a sailor, right? So you could choose the money or you could choose the rum. And everyone took the rum because the money wasn't very much. And as a sailor, you got paid once every 3 months. So it's like, well, do I want a few extra pennies in 3 months' time? Or do I want a tot of rum right now that I can drink? Or I can switch with the chef and get some more food? Or I can give to my crewmate to get him to cover my shift because I want some more shore leave. Like, rum was a currency on the ship. So everyone took the rum and it was a big part of daily tradition. You got your rum ration every morning at 11 a.m. Um, and this was considered responsible day drinking because if you drank in the morning with your meal, you could work it off during the day so you wouldn't get drunk. But if you drank at night and you're on a wooden sailing ship and you fall overboard because you're drunk, then they're not going to find you. You're gone. You've disappeared, right? If you, at least if you fall overboard in daytime because you're drunk, okay, we can probably find you and get you back on. But at night, you're fucked. So this responsible daytime drinking, 11 a.m., you got your daily tot. They did the ration. Now notice they're all carrying these big buckets. These are called fannies back in the day. And they all come in. This is a bit of a rowdy crew. This is what it's meant to look like. Okay, this is you guys now. This is us after a few daiquiris later on. Right, but these guys come up. They've got their buckets now. Why have they got such big buckets or fannies, as they call them? Because one person would be responsible for their little mess deck, their little crew. So if you tried to do every person on the ship individually and gave them all their individual tot, it would take too long. So you send one person up, they're responsible for maybe 10, 12 people. Now, and you look, they're all watching to make sure they get their fair share of rum because if they come back short, they get beat up, right? So they come up, the pussers on the side, scribbling down. They would call out, okay, we're from mess deck 27. It's like, okay, yeah, you get this many pints. And like, boom, boom, boom. And they keep it rolling, keep it rolling, keep it rolling. So the whole thing should take half an hour, 45 minutes max, and then you've done the whole ship. Everyone's got their rum, you get things back going again. Um, The barrels would change depending on who's on the throne. So before 1953, the king, God bless him. You see this on all the ships all around the world. And then after 1953, Queen Elizabeth comes along and it becomes the Queen, God bless her, on the tanks. And this is Queen Elizabeth coming up to get her tots back in the day. So it gives you an idea of how important this was, right? Like, this was such a part of our tradition for a good couple of 100 years. And the idea of giving up your tot or ending the tradition was unfathomable to a lot of people. They actually ended up having a vote in Parliament in 1970, and they said, should we get rid of the rum? Should we not? The new admiral who joined the Navy at the time said, yeah, it's technology has moved on. We're not on wooden sailing ships anymore. We need to end this. And all of the old white boys who'd served in the Navy, in the government, are all like, no, if you get rid of the rum, everyone's going to quit the Navy. Like, you've got to keep it going. And so you can read the parliamentary debates online. There's a website called Hansard. If you're really bored, you can read all the discussions on it. They had the vote. The rum lost. 3 days later, they ended the rum ration. So the vote was on the 28th of July. On the 31st of July, 1970, they gave out the last tots. So it was only a 3-day wind down period. It wasn't like it happened over several months or something like that. It was 3 days and then done. Now, this had big ramifications in the rum world because, again, the Navy are drinking, 18 million liters of rum, maybe a bit less by the time we get to 1970, but it's still a huge amount. And by 1970, their biggest suppliers were Caroni in Trinidad, and a lot of the Demerara distiller, not Demerara distillers today, but a lot of the Demerara distilleries at the time. Now, if your biggest customer decides one day, I'm going dry, that's pretty bad for business, right? So Caroni, if you look at the history of Caroni in Trinidad, in 1970, they have to get bailed out by the government. So the government purchases 50% of Caroni in 1970. 5 years later, the government buys all of Caroni. They can't carry on because so much of their supply was going to the Navy. You see as well in the 70s onwards, a lot of these Demerara distilleries start to close down and merge and come together. Until today, we only have now one distillery left in Guyana. So it was a combination of factors. This isn't to say it was just the Navy that caused these to close. There was a decline in rum as well. There was a move towards white spirits, vodkas, gins. Vodka especially, though, really started to have its time from the sort of 70s, 80s onwards. And for a long time, people were moving away from brown spirits, from what their granddads drank, all this stuff. It was this new age of drinking coming through, not necessarily for the better. And so all of these things combined sort of really started to see the decline of rum in these distilleries, but also in other distilleries around the world. So the Navy, when they were blending, these are some of their smaller blending vats. So 4,000 gallons, about 16,000 liters. These are the small ones. And they had ones as big as Olympic swimming pools, massive, massive vats of rum, wooden open top vats, all connected with pipes about a third of the way up. And the idea was you could fill one vat and eventually it would blend down into all the others. And so it was like you could dump casks of rum into any vat and eventually they'd all come together. Now, they were doing these vats from the early 1800s in Deptford near West India Docks, where I showed you, they were doing those vats from the early 1800s up until World War II. And in World War II, it actually got bombed as part of the Blitz. And they lost all of the blending vats, and they lost the Deptford vats in World War II. They were so worried that it would affect the morale of all of the Navy and of England in general that they actually banned people from talking about it. They did a media blackout on losing all this rum because they were like, if we've lost the rum, people are thinking we've lost the war, So they actually kept that pretty quiet when that happened. But we had other blending vats which carried on and other strongholds with all these flagons. And after 1970, all of the remaining rum was put into these boxes. Now, if you see a box like this, it's wrapped in, that's tin metal that's wrapped around it 3 times on the outside and in the middle. You've got to crowbar it open. They're nailed shut. And you get little clues on the boxes. So like faded in red on the left, Antwerp. So we know this box was sent to Antwerp at some point. And we know that there was a Navy base set up in Antwerp after World War II, sort of keep an eye on things. And so they sent a lot of rum there. For some reason, they never drank the rum in Antwerp, or they didn't drink very much of it, because a lot of these 1954 and 1955 flagons that you see all came from the Antwerp boxes, and maybe someone overordered or they just weren't drinking it at the time, but a lot of these ones survive as well. So you see like PKD 1155 on the box on the left, so packed November 1955. You crowbar them open, you see all this sawdust in there. That's how they protected them from knocking against each other. And inside, you get these wicker flagons. So, wicker on the outside, sort of like a glazed stone ceramic underneath. And on the right, you'll see if this is still intact, this is the really exciting bit because it will tell you where and when the flagon was bottled. So 12-70, December 1970, 5 months after Black Tot Day. Um, you have to crack open the wax. There's a cork inside that, you know, these corks now are 50, 60 years old, and you need like those proper like wine tongue things to put either side. You can't, if you use a corkscrew, the whole thing falls apart. I've tried this many times. But you get the little two forks around the outside the cork, and it takes a little while to get it out. I've managed to get one out successfully in one piece without it all like disintegrating into bits. And as soon as you pull it out, the cork just like dies. But yeah, these are airtight time capsules of rum, like because of the way they bottled it, because they chose to put the rum in these flagons rather than a barrel, it meant the rum didn't really change. It just married and married over time. It didn't breathe, it didn't evaporate off. We didn't have the angel share. Like these are proper little time capsules. So if the seal is intact, the rum's usually very, very good inside. But when the seal's not intact, you see stuff like this. So sometimes the boxes are stored upside down, or the rum's pulled through and the cork's disintegrated. Some of them are just a bit leaky. So we have to check every single flagon when we go through it to see if we still have the rum or not. You find cool things like these ration cards. So this is for like 10 men, 4 men, 24 hours. A box of biscuits feeds 100 men. A jar of rum feeds 80 men, right? They saw biscuits and rum as the same thing, just something that you had to provide to all of the fleet each day. I don't know what happened to the guy with the blood, but he got the rum in the box, so that's the main thing. Um, and this brings us to the first rum that we ever made, which was Black Tot Last Consignment. So I know a couple of you guys have some bottles of this, and this is those flagons in a bottle, right? So if you want to try the actual Navy rum from 1970 and before, you can still buy it. We have maybe another 200-ish, 300 bottles left of this. We have more flagons, but we don't have the same ratio of flagons to make this blend again. So if we do anything else with the flagons, we put some of the flagons each year into the Master Blenders series that we're going to try tonight as well. So some get used for that, and the rest remains to be seen. But this blend, this first Black Tot is yeah, will probably be finished in the next year or two, I reckon. And it's an expensive bottle of rum, right? It's about €1,000 a bottle if you're going to buy it. But this is one of the things I still love about rum on a personal level, being able to buy so much of it. Because if this was a whiskey and we said, right, we've got a whiskey that was blended from 1804 till 1970, drunk by the Navy for 200 years, stored in time capsules for 40 years, and then blended and bottled, like how much would that whiskey be? You know, like from distilleries that don't exist anymore, from an era of rum that like if that was a whiskey, you'd add like 0.000 on the end of it, right? But because it's rum, it's just an old rum. Like, great. So it's expensive, but just get it. Do you know what I mean? Like, honestly, it's one of those things where I look at the people who bought all the old Velier Demerara bottles back in the day when those were like 70 quid, 80 quid. They were cheap. They were cheap thing. And now you go into a shop, you see them for 20 grand. It's like, oh, why didn't I buy more of it? You know, like at the time, why why did I drink all of it? But yeah, like just get it. It's delicious rum. That's the other nice thing. Some of these old bottles don't always taste as good, but this one really, really does for me. Um, the next one we released back in 2015 was the Black Tot 40-year-old. This was this is the only Black Tot we've released that isn't a multi-country blend. This was a 40-year-old from Guyana, distilled in 1975, whilst the Port Morant still was still at Iflet Distillery. Um, the cask strength of this is 44.2% because this was in a barrel that whole time, so it has evaporated off so much. So it's quite a low ABV, but it's super punchy. There's so much flavor in there. If I had to choose between this and the last consignment, I would choose the last consignment. For me, flavor wise, history wise, I think it's just such a beautiful rum. But if you want to try one of the oldest Guyanese rums that's ever existed, this this is it. So yeah, so for 10 years we only had those two rums, last consignment and the 40 year. And after 10 years, we thought maybe we should have some rums that cost less than €1,000 a bottle. And also, what do we do when these rums run out? And that's when we started working on these other blends. And this is sort of what we're going to get into for the tasting today. So I'm going to run you through quickly what goes into the blend and where these are coming from. So we have, but let's drink some rum first of all. So you're going to drink the first one, which is the old blend of the finest Caribbean. Um, and what I recommend is that don't just down all of this, like go back and forth between some of these rums, especially the first four, because the old finest Caribbean blend is the same blend that we use that goes into the Solera. So you can try the rum pre-Solera, post-Solera, and you can actually try those two side by side. So save a little bit so you can keep going back and forth. We're going to try the Trinidad that we've added, the new finest, then try the old finest and the new finest together, see what you like. So I don't want you to just do one, two, three, four, five, six. Like use them to bounce back and forth a little bit.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, everyone. Mm-mm-mm.
Mitch, a question in the meantime. Is it
Yeah.
true if I also look at you made a remark about people maybe saying don't add too much Jamaica in the blends back in the day. And if I look at the 50th anniversary, you could say it was the 2020 Master Blenders, if you could say it like if you could call it that. That was heavy on the Guyanese rum. Is it
Mhm.
true that so the that all of the black dots or the no not the black dots but the ROMs for the ships that it was Guyana heavy as well? Has it always been Guyana heavy? Do you know?
It changed over the years. So
Okay.
at different eras of the Navy blend, you'd see more of one type of run depending on what was available. And
Mm,
you've got to think at this time, rum is very agricultural, right? Rum is
mhm.
very much dependent on n no one's focus was making the rum. Everyone's focus was making as much sugar as possible. Now, if you had a good harvest on the sugar, if you made a lot of sugar, you make a lot of molasses. If you had a lot of molasses, you can make a lot of rum. And sometimes there was a bad crop or a bad season. Now we're so good at it. We've had 200-300 years of evolving cane and making it more pest resistant and better farming methods and all this kind of stuff. But back then, one bad storm, one bad, outbreak of something, and you lose a whole crop. And now suddenly there's no rum coming from that island that year, so you've got to go somewhere else. So you see it change a lot over the years. Barbados, there was more Barbados rum in the early Navy blends and less by the end, right? Um, Trinidad didn't really become a thing until the 1900s when Caroni opened in the early 1900s, 1910s, you know. That's when Caroni came into the scene and suddenly Trinidad was able to make a lot more rum and come into the scene. So yeah, by the end, and you'll see a lot of brands talk about, you know, Guyana and Trinidad or just Guyana because they're able to get a lot of it. And so they lean into that side of the story. But the truth is Navy rum was always changing, always evolving,
Yeah.
always moving. So we're not going to go too much into, you know, rum 101. You know a lot of this stuff. You know, rum all comes from sugarcane. It must be a byproduct of the sugarcane process. But there's a couple of little bits in here which you might enjoy. So this is sort of like a very general overview of the rum making process. You're probably familiar with most of it. So coming from cane, crushing the cane, getting the juice. You can take the juice, add yeast, ferment it, distill it, and get your Clarins, Agricoles, Cachaças, Aracs, those are your juice-based rums. Or you can boil the juice, make a cane syrup, and then make rum from that. That becomes your Diplomaticos, your Zacapas, but also things like Rivers Antoine are going to be a cane syrup base. Or you can do this extra stage, which starts to get a bit more complicated, but you pressurize it, you get the sugar crystals to form, you get this mesquite, you centrifuge the mesquite, you get sugarcane crystals and molasses left on another side. And then from those molasses, you can add yeast, ferment, distill, and make the base for all of these rums that we're trying tonight. But you can also use a combination of any of these three. You can use some cane juice and some molasses, or some syrup and some juice. So the main thing is it must all come from sugar cane, but it can be a combination of any of these parts coming in. Now, most cane harvested by machine today, but in some places still by hand, especially when it's on hills and things which are hard to get. This is a cane truck in Jamaica. They basically just drive around transporting cane. This was going to Worthy Park, just causing traffic jams basically because the roads are not built for these giant lorries, and they, you know, have to do like 6-point turns, get around and slow everything down. You get your cane, you crush your cane. These are sugar cane rollers that will crush the cane, get that juice out. That juice traditionally would have gone into things like this. So this is actually at Rivers Antoine, where what they'll do, these giant pans that you see, underneath those pans, they'll put the dried out sugarcane husk and light that on fire. So that bagasse that we call it becomes very flammable when it's dry, and they can heat up the pans with this. And it seems crazy, but that guy you see is holding that big stick with a big, like, it looks like a big ladle on the end. What he's doing is he's lifting the juice from one pan to the next, one pan to the next, one pan to the next, to help it reduce and help it turn into a syrup. This is how they used to make cane syrup back in the day. It was all done by hand, incredibly labor intensive. Do you know what I mean? And that's still how they do it at places like Rivers Antoine today. Now, once you've got your syrup, you put it into these vacuum pans. Now, these vacuum pans are giant cylinders that pressurize the syrup. And what you see in the middle, what he's holding there, is what we call mesquite. So this is the first formation of sugar crystals in the cane syrup. Okay. So at this stage, it's not separated. We don't have sugar crystals and syrup separate. It's all in together, and that's our mesquite. And then what he's doing, you see he's looking at the through the microscope on the side. You get about 3 passes to extract sugar crystals from this mesquite. So you put it in the pan, you pressurize it, you spin it in a centrifuge, you get the sugarcane crystals off, you put the remaining syrup back in the next vacuum pan, pressurize it again, get the crystals separated off. You can do that 3 times before there's so little sugar left in that mix that the resulting syrup, or the molasses that we call it, you just get rid of it because there's not enough sugar left. And what we call the first extraction of sugar, strike a sugar and strike a molasses. So the molasses still has the most amount of sugar in it. You'll sometimes hear Americans call it fancy molasses. That's strike A molasses. It's only had one extraction of sugar crystals. Second one, strike B sugar, strike B molasses. Third one, strike C sugar, strike C molasses. Sometimes called blackstrap molasses, or they have sort of general names for this, but it's the most bitter, it's the most heavy, it's the least amount of sugar left in the molasses. Now, what that looks like in terms of the actual sugar crystals themselves is that sugar crystals change size. So the first formation, the sugar crystals are very big. Second formation, they're smaller. Third formation, they're tiny. So what he's looking at in the microscope is actually each pass of these sugar crystals. And this is just me with my camera up against the microscope trying to capture it. So you see the strike A, big chunky sugar crystals. Then it gets a bit smaller, strike B. By strike C, you've got these tiny little dots of sugar. And once they're extracted, the amount of sugar left in the molasses is so small that they're like, okay, get rid of it. You know, it's you can sell it in health food cans, or you can do the proper thing and turn it into rum, but it's literally a waste product once you've extracted all of this sugar from it. And the more efficient the process, the less sugar left in the molasses, the less fermentable sugar. So you almost want a more inefficient process. So you've got a bit more sugar left in that molasses. When it's not perfect, your molasses is going to be better quality. Now, your molasses, you know, you get your thick, treacly deliciousness. You get it fermenting, sometimes open fermentations in a lot of places. Now, the first distillery we're blending with is from Foursquare in Barbados. It's a 5-year tropically aged, all at their warehouses here. And Barbados rum is going to give you a lot of that vanilla, coconut, a lot.
Hello, Mitch. Mitch froze a bit.
You upped it, so
Oh,
it's
he's back.
40%.
You froze there for a minute bit.
Froze for a second. Oh yeah, looks like my Ziggo internet, which is the bane of my life here. Yeah. So Foursquare 5-year-old, 35% of the old blend, 40% of the new blend. So we've just upped it slightly in the new one. Okay. Now have a try of that. Now we're going to try the new component that we've added, which is the Trinidad as well. So you can see what this brings in.
Yeah, that's from number 2, guys.
Trinidad's an interesting one. There's only one distillery left in Trinidad now, Trinidad Distillers Limited. Same place that makes Angostura, Angostura bitters. Everything is made in this one place now. They have 2 giant 5-column, multi-column stills. Okay. To all intents and purposes, they could just make vodka if they wanted to, right? That they're proper multi-column stills that could distill up to 96% very easily. But what they do at TDL is they make a light mark and a heavy mark. So they do make one which is a bit more neutral, not completely neutral. They still want some flavor in it. For the Angostura bitters, they're going to make something that's closer to neutral. It's more about the herbs and spices and everything that they're adding into the bitters, but still rum based. So you have this light mark and you have this heavy mark. Now this is going to be more of that heavy mark in this blend because we want more of that fruit flavor. Okay, it's not crazy, it's not super intense. It's not like they go nuts with the heavy mark, but where you get these stone fruit flavors, these peaches, these apricots, these kind of things coming through, that's where you go, okay, it's probably got some of that heavier TDL in there. And when you've tried, you know, independent bottlings like Tomosi or really good expressions of Trinidad from TDL, that's usually that heavier mark in there that you're seeing really develop and all those peach and apricot flavors develop over time.
Yeah, also goes for Caroni, right? There are a number of independent bottlings from Caroni that are pretty light, not really interesting because we all expect the heavy style rums from Caroni, but they also use a column still. So it's really
Yeah,
interesting that you can get different marks, different flavors from the same column actually.
that's it. Yeah, and I think sometimes we dismiss column stills sometimes, and it's not always fair, right? Because A column just gives you full control over that distillate. And most people use that to make a cheaper, lighter style rum, but not always. If you wanted to make a heavier rum, if you wanted to make Caroni, you could with the column still. You just have to choose to run it less efficiently and choose some of those lower plates to throw into the blend. And you know, Caroni's a good example, right? Like the crazy heavy diesel Caronis that everyone gets very excited over. I don't like. They're not for me, right? Okay, I don't go, oh, let's drink some diesel tonight. Yum. Um, when you get some of that lighter, fruitier notes, like and you know, certainly never neutral, that's not what they did, but some of those lighter, fruitier Coronis, they're for me, they're beautiful. For me, that's something I will drink again and again and again and again, you know, and I think it's something for everyone's rum journey, right? Like, and I think we do it with everything in life, right? In England, growing up, our national dish in England now for several years has been Indian curry because English food isn't that exciting, and we love all the stuff that you know we colonized, and that's the most exciting food in England, similar to the Netherlands in a lot of ways, right? Um, so. And when you're growing up in England, it's like you got to work up to the spiciest, the craziest, the vindaloos, that like how spicy can you go? And it's almost like this show of bravado, like I can eat the spiciest thing. And at some point you go, what am I doing? Like this isn't nice. This isn't enjoyable. Like maybe let me go down a couple more notches and I could go up here, but I here's where all the flavor is, you know? And sometimes we do the same with rum, right? We go, let me drink the highest ABV. I want the 70%, the 80%. I want the DOKs, the crazy high esters. And at some point you go, what am I doing? Let me just drink a rum that's really delicious, really really nice to drink, you know? So it's part of the journey, you know. It's okay to love extremities for sure, but I think the rums I find myself reaching for again and again and again are usually not the extreme ones. I'll usually get the extreme one to show someone once and they go, wow, that's really interesting. And then they never drink it again. It's like
Yeah,
the
I
ones
think
that
the
go
ro
back again and again are the drinkable ones, you know, you want to.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a flex, right? It started with I think Caroni, you started it all. Oh, I can drink Caroni, and then came the high ester rums from Jamaica. Look at me drinking Doc, which is not really supposed to be drunk, I think, neat, but okay, we're there now. But I think yeah, it's a flex to show people. Hey, I have a question from someone asking why the Trinidadian rum is feels a bit harsher, although the ABV is less than the first Caribbean reserve. Can you maybe shed some light on that or not?
Well, so the ABV of the first four rums you're having is all the same. It's all
Okay.
46.2%.
Mhm.
So ABV won't be a factor. It's a younger rum, you know, it's a blend of 2 to 4 years that you've got here. So it's going to be, um, you know, one of the things you'll get with aging sometimes is taking off some of those harsher notes, so some of those more brash kind of notes, which, and I think with the blends you see that more. That's part of blending, right? Blending allows us to sort of make it feel more complete, and where there is maybe a crazier note or a more intense flavor, we can sort of round it off by blending it together. Whereas when you try a single origin, you get more of that, like, okay, boom, this is just that
Yeah.
flavor. So it could be that. But yeah, let me know if that answers your question or not. We can always
It's also the slides you're showing now, right? So I think when you're doing a blend, I assume you wanna maximize the best qualities of that particular distillery or country. So like you said, you use a Barbados maybe for some more coconut flavor, some sweetness, and a Trinidad maybe for the vanilla or whatever, and then you get to the end result you're imagining. So a blend will usually be, if it's a good blend, be a bit rounder than a single origin rum, I think, like you explained.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think This is something that for me is very important with Black Tot because I don't have many blends on my home bar.
Hmm.
The blends I have are the blends where I know what's inside and I know what they've used, and I can appreciate, okay, you've done this, you've done this, you've done this. When someone gives me, here's our mystery blend, it's a secret recipe, I'm like, get out. I don't want that, like I'll do my own blend if I want something, right? So when I first joined Black Tot, one of the big sort of missions given to me by Sukhinder, our founder of the company, was, how do we make people appreciate blends again? Because blends were there is so much more art to creating a blend than there is just getting a single cask of something, right? When you get a single cask, something you taste it, maybe it's good, maybe it's not, like hopefully you get a nice one. Um, but when you're blending something, it's kind of like and all within the industry, not just for us, but for the whiskey guys, for rum, for everyone. Everyone's like, yeah, the art of creating a blend that either something is that's consistent year in, year out, or something that's really unique and special as a one-off. Like that's kind of where all the skill and the flavor and the taste is,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, so people are rightly, I think, very mistrusting of blends and tend to stay away from them because there is this mystery and secret recipe. And I said, for me, if we want people to appreciate blends, let's tell people what's in it. Let's make it completely transparent. Let's give everyone the recipe. Let's make it, 100% you can try all the components and see exactly what's in there, and for me that goes a long way because that's what I would want as a rum drinker is that complete transparency, that recipe. And I go, okay, cool. You guys know your stuff. You're picking good rums, good distilleries. I like what you're doing. So the rest of the rums in here. So we've got some DDL, also called Demerara Distillers, also called Diamond Distillery. Three names, same place, very confusing. But the last remaining distillery in Guyana, there's actually two Guyanese rums we blend in here. One is unaged, it gives you more of these bitter, licorice, tonka, pepper kind of notes. And the other one is an aged blend from the wooden stills. So, you've got the Enmore still, the Port Morant still, the Versailles still there. These are the last remaining wooden stills at DDL. And they make this very unique flavor of rum. Yeah, I mean, they've been going for so many years now. And just diving into Guyanese rum history and why these even exist is a whole other masterclass. But this flavor of rum is so unique to Guyana, and we bring some of that into the blend as well. So again, these ratios have changed. This is probably the part of the rum that's changed the most from the old blend to the new blend. So the old blend was 60% Guyana, the new blend is 20%. And the makeup of that, this was 40% wooden stills, 3 to 5 year old, more of this milk chocolate, coffee, tonka kind of note. This is only 10%, okay? This was 20% of the unaged Guyana, that more bitter, heavy licorice kind of flavor. And this is 10% as well. So we've kind of brought the Guyana right down. Um, some of you might be like, that's great, glad. Some of you might be like, why did you get rid of the Guyana? What are you changing? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, the conversation actually started. There was this brief moment in time where everyone thought Guyana was going to stop selling rum to blenders and to other bottlers and keep it all for themselves. That turned out not to be true, but it started a conversation, and we for the first time in 5 years, we kind of re-looked at the Finest Caribbean blend and we said, well, what would we change if we were going to change anything with it? And it's interesting, right? Because a lot of the heavy rum lovers like Gianni, like a lot of the nerds which are probably in this room with it, they like that heavy, more rich, more full on style. But what we were getting from a lot of the bars and bartenders and everyone else drinking it was like, it's so heavy, it's so full on, it's kind of hard to work with, it's kind of hard to blend with, like it's hard to make a cocktail with. We don't know really what to do with it other than a rum old fashioned or a right hand or something like that. And you got to think everything in our Black Tot lineup is quite heavy, is quite rich, is quite full on. And we kind of needed one that was maybe a bit more approachable, you know? And so as much as like, you know, the Giannis of the world might say, why did you change it? How dare you? Like, this rum kind of isn't the rum that Gianni's most excited about anyway. He's more excited about the master blenders and the last consignment and everything else anyway. He's not buying this rum, let's face it. We needed a rum that more people would get into and more people would get into the range. So Ollie, our blender, when he made this rum, he was a whiskey drinker. He'd blended whiskey for 10 years. He'd never blended a rum before. This was his first rum that he ever blended. Um, After 5 years of making Master Blenders Reserves, he had a lot more experience. And he was like, actually, I love Trinidad rum. It has this lovely fruitiness. Ollie loves fruitier style rums. Sakinda loves heavier Guyanese style rums. And so you'll often see with the Master Blenders, 1 year will be heavy Guyana, 1 year will be more fruity. And it's like Sakinda and Ollie bouncing between themselves, like, okay, you get this year, you get this year, and
Yeah.
they're two different styles coming through. Um, I think for me, the new blend, I really like this because it is a lot more versatile. And more importantly, it makes a much better daiquiri. The old one wasn't really daiquiri friendly. And yeah, I could do a right hand with it. So I don't always want a rum Negroni, you know, but daiquiris, I always want a daiquiri. And now I can have daiquiris and an aged rum daiquiri, it is unusual. A lot of people don't. They're like, oh, you can't use an aged rum in a daiquiri. Fuck them. You try it. Try a daiquiri with this next time you're in the bar. It's fucking delicious. And it is my mission to get this into every bar in the Netherlands because, to be honest, most bars you go to outside of places like the Ruma, your rum selection is going to be pretty basic, right?
Yes.
But if you have something like this, you can go, okay, good. I can get a decent cocktail out of it as well. So yeah,
Yeah, they make good rum sours and whatever. You can do anything with them, I
uh,
think.
this
Um,
this
but
this
it's
is
quite nice the difference in the nose already from this one the two Caribbean finest Caribbeans is amazing.
yeah, it's this for me is like a workhorse rum. You know what I mean? It's not going to be the rum that you go, oh, like let me out of everything, let me show you this one. Like, but you're going to make a drink. This will do the job. You know, you just want something nice and easy to drink, your everyday kind of tot. Boom. This will do the job most of the time. And
And
it's
am I also correct? Sorry to interrupt. Am I also correct to assume that there might be a financial component to changing the blend as well?
not really. It doesn't
Okay.
change it much. No, I mean the difference between the Guyana and the Trinidad that to be honest, every year they kind of change a little bit.
Okay.
So yeah, sometimes and look, don't get me wrong, this was another big part for me with the transparency because usually when you see a brand change a label, you go, did you change the liquid as well? And almost every time the brand goes, absolutely not. We would
No.
never, it's the same liquid it's been for 100 years. And you're like, but it tastes different. And they're like, no, it's all in your head. And you're like, but it's a different color. And they're like, no, absolutely. And you're like, but I've got the two, I've got the old rum and the new rum. They're not the same rum. And they're like, no, yeah. And it's nonsense. Of course they've changed the rum, right? Of course they and normally not for the better, right? Normally it's they've cheapened something or they've shortened the fermentation or they've had to stretch it out more or whatever it is. And and because they know they haven't done it for the better, most of the time they say, no, 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 it's the same, it's the same, it's the same. And what they try and do is make the change so gradual every time they do it. You might wonder sometimes, you're like, wow, this brand that I love has changed their label once every year for the last 10 years. Why? Because they're slowly changing it. Not so much that you're going to be shocked and you're going to go, oh, I don't like this brand anymore, but just enough to like it's like what's the story like the frog in the frying pan, right? Like, and you heat up the water really slowly and the frog doesn't
Yeah.
realize, and then
Yeah.
you know you
Nice.
change the blend just a little bit every time, you pretend it's the same. And then 10 years apart, you go, wow, it's really changed. But you don't notice it so much because it's just little bits, little bits. So fuck that. I want to tell you exactly what we've changed, and this is what we've changed. This is the recipe, and you either like it or you don't. That's okay, but at least you know exactly where you stand with it, right? And if you like the old ones, amazing. Go and buy all those bottles and get them off the shelves because we need to get the new ones on there. So perfect. Stash them up.
So what do we think, guys? Oh, you're all muted, but what do we think of the comparison between one and three? I'm curious to hear
Yeah,
in
I'm
what
curious.
you have now, but
And feel free to unmute if you want to
yeah,
speak up and say or whatever. We're only a small group, so. Hono's in for three. Like three. Good.
someone
One for
one,
you, three
three
for you.
also.
Okay.
Harold, Peter,
Three.
one.
Okay. One. Yeah.
I think one is winning. Arnold,
Yeah.
one also. Okay, so one is winning. So okay, back
Yeah.
to the drawing board for Ollie then.
Well, no. So hands up. Who's for three? There was three of you. Three.
Just oh,
Three.
okay, three.
Three. And me. And then two, three, four. So we're exactly even.
Exactly.
We're four and four. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. That's fine. But yeah, it is one of it. I mean. It's a good example, right? Like 10 years from now, everyone will be like, "Oh, you've got the old Black Tot, the original one." Like, amazing. Go and buy some bottles. Go and get it
Yeah, yeah.
away. It's cheap. It's the most affordable thing we've ever made. So go and get some. Stick them away. In a few years' time, it'll be a really cool collectible that you've got that no one else has. But yeah, rum wise, I prefer. For me, the old one is more of a whiskey drinker's rum. Like we were trying to pitch this to a lot of whiskey drinkers to convert them into rum because it is drier, it's heavier, it's got that kind of flavor. This for me is a more rummy rum. I like this because it plays better in rum drinks. It plays better in cocktails, and I enjoy it for that. But both have their place. The final component, just quickly, just to show you, comes from Worthy Park. They have their sexy double retort pot still going on here. Um, Jamaica, as you know, Worthy Park especially gives you loads of those banana notes, a bit of that orange peel, a bit of that pepper, a bit of that spice. It's only 5% of the blend, and that was the same with the old and the new, just 5%. 3-year Worthy Park going in there, but it just gives it that little spice, that little lift, that little funk. Now, I thought let's dig in a little bit into, you know, all of the secret sauce in Jamaican rum. And it applies less in Worthy Park, obviously, but I think it's important, especially when we look at things like master blenders later on. So this Dunder, okay? These are Dunder tanks, and this is your leftover stillage from your distillation. So when you've got your double retort pot still, you put your fermenting molasses in the big pot. Okay, it's going to be about 7 to 9%. You've evaporated everything off that's alcoholic from that wash. You haven't brought the whole wash over. The leftover wash is still there. It's just all the alcohol's gone. Now, that leftover wash we call dunder. And that dunder, most of the time, in most distilleries around the world, they just get rid of it. They water it down, they put it in the river, put it on the crops. It's got some nutrients to it. It's got some things going on in it still, but it's usually a waste product. Less so in Jamaica. In Jamaica, and starting to see, places, Barbados is experiencing now at West Indies, Beanley,
MOBA. Yeah.
MOBA, Beanley in the years 2005 to 2010 did a little like Dunder experimentation. That's why those rums taste so fucking good. And this Dunder, if you just keep adding to it and adding to it and adding to it, you get this, and it's kind of like a dead yeast graveyard, right? But why this is so important is this is very acidic. And acid is a key component if we want to add this into to create more esters and more flavors later on. You have other things like this at Hampton. This is their cane acid vat. So this is cane juice that's been allowed to turn into vinegar, and it's just this mother broth of acid. And they've thrown things like sugarcane stalks in there, jackfruits, the crocodile-looking things, and all of this is just to create as much acid as possible. You may have seen Danny Biondi was doing some tastings recently with Hampton. Um, and for the first time ever from Hampton, he brought the water, some of their molasses, but also some of their Dunder, some of their cane juice, which is from this tank that you're looking at right now, and most excited, their muck as well, which smells fucking awful, right? So if you're ever in Amsterdam and you want to come over and you want to smell what muck actually smells like, oh, it smells terrible,
Can
right?
you can you explain Muck real quick?
Yeah. We'll get into it. I'm a bit worried about the cane juice because every time I open it, it releases this gas. I'm sure it's going to explode at some point. This smells almost as bad, but fresher than the. So, so let's get into this. Why does Jamaica do all this? What's this whole thing? What are they trying to create with all these esters and uh, not just acidity, but bacterial fermentation and all these other things that are going on? So they're trying to make these, right? So these are your esters, and this is an overview of all the different types of ester that can be made. So when you get all the alcohols along the top, all the carboxylic acids down the bottom, when they come together, when they love each other very much, they make all these little ester babies in the middle, right? Now, when you look at things like Hampton, going from DOK 1600 esters down to their lower marks, what are we actually talking about? We're only measuring one type of ester for these marks, okay? Whether it's HTML, C-diamine H, whatever. And the one ester we're measuring is the ethyl ethanoate, okay? That's ethanol plus ethanoate. So in this case, acetic acid, okay? Vinegar. Why do we measure that one? Because that one is always there. If you're going to distill anything, the one alcohol you need out of all of these alcohols along the top is ethanol. If you have any acidity at all, the one acid you're definitely going to have will be acetic acid, vinegar, right? Because acetic acid, it just, anytime you leave a bit of fruit out too long or any acidity, anything you find, it just naturally occurs. It's acetic acid is very, very easy to form. Now, that one is always there, and that one's always going to be usually the highest amount. So we measured that one as a measuring stick for all the others. So Jamaica goes from 0 to 1600. They can make higher, but they're not allowed to sell it. You can't export anything higher than 1600 grams per liter. So what are we saying when we say DOK is 1600? We're saying there is 1600 grams of ethyl ethanoate or ethyl acetate per hectoliter, 100 liters of absolute alcohol. What the fuck does that mean? It means if I had 100 liters of this rum and it was at 100% ABV, which is theoretically impossible, and I evaporated everything else off except for the dry weight of the ethyl ethanoate, I would have 1600 grams of it. What does that tell me about flavor? Absolutely nothing, right? But it gives me a measure of intensity because if this is high, if this is 1600, chances are there's lots of those other flavors that you're seeing on this chart. If this is low, if this is like 10, 20, 30, which is roughly the Trinidad rum will be about 10, 20 esters, the Barbados, Guyana, most of these sit under 50 esters, right, of this. Then usually you're going to look in that top corner of flavors, and those are the flavors you're going to find. You're not going to find these really extreme, crazy flavors that you find in Jamaican rum, and that's part of it. So why is this important? What and how do we need to look at this? These alcohols that we have in here, everything is going to make you blind except for the ethanol, unless you drink a lot of it, right? So all of these other things, all of those flavors in all of those columns under the butyl, pentyl, hexyl, all of that, for that to form, that cannot happen after distillation. Why? Because distillation has separated out all of those alcohols. They're not in your mix anymore. You've only got the ethanol column. So how do I make these esters? I need all those alcohols in there. It has to happen in the fermentation stage because the fermentation stage is a free-for-all. Fermentation stage can have pentanol, butanol, all of these kind of things going on, and that's fine because it's fermentation. After I separate out the ethanol, now I've only got that column. So I might still get esters to form over time because this is the other part about esters. People think acid, alcohol comes together, makes an ester. Yes, but over time, that ester breaks apart, comes together, breaks apart, comes together, breaks apart, comes together, breaks apart, comes together. Esters are not like one and done. They are constantly in flux. Now, when they break apart and come together, break apart, come together, the more volatile, lighter alcohols and acids and other things, these more volatile components can actually evaporate. Now, if you've got a barrel aging for many, many years and you've got angel share with water and alcohol escaping the barrel, if some of those esters break apart and some of those volatile compounds start to evaporate, what does it form again with? Well, it might form with something a bit more complex. It might start to create longer chain esters and more complex esters and more complex flavors. So we did an experiment with some Jamaican rum where, you know, the mark of the Jamaican rum before you aged it might be LFCH, LROK, whatever it is. You come back after 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, the ester count has gone up. The ester count might be now more HLCF or C, Diamond H or something like that. But you measure the esters at time of distillation, not at the time of bottling. So sometimes you see a disconnect between very old Jamaican rum and what you've distilled, and you actually go, oh, but these esters are not this mark. You're like, yeah, because it's aged over time. They've broken apart. Some of the lighter ones have evaporated off, and more complex esters have formed over time. So the higher the esters that you put into the barrel at the start, the more chance you have for more esters to develop over time. If you put a very neutral rum into a barrel, you're not going to get esters suddenly come out of nowhere. There has to be the building blocks there to start with. And if you've got a high ester rum at the start, it will continue to go up over time. But yeah, you know, most people, when they talk about esters, they can make it very complex or they can talk about the numbers or whatever. None of this really means anything. Esters are flavors. Esters are specifically the fruit smells in your spirits. And they exist in your whiskey, they exist in your cognac, they exist in your rum. It's just in rum, we're the only ones that really talk about esters, but they exist in everything else too. So we've just kind of nerded out mainly because of Jamaica and we've made it this thing. But esters, the numbers, these aren't the interesting part. The interesting part is, do you like bananas or do you like pineapples? Do you like apples? Do you like pears? Do you like strawberries? Do you like mint? Like, what are the flavors you like? And then you go, well, I love strawberry notes. And you go, I love this Savannah hair. Like, oh yeah, because you get that strawberry bubblegum flavor in the Savannah hair. You know, or I prefer Worthy Park to Hampton. Why? Oh, because I love that banana note. Yes, because that's an ester that's smelling like bananas that they have more of, and Hampton has more of that pineapple smell. So don't just geek out over the numbers or the chemistry of it, but look at what are the flavors that you love? What are the notes that you love, and who are the distilleries that make those? And if you're making a blend, how do you harness those flavors and put them together to make something really delicious as well?
Yeah, I think this is also a one of the biggest distinctions between rum and whiskey, right? Well, I think one of the reasons why most people might say that rum is more diverse than whiskey, is that fermentation, especially Jamaicans, but like you said, some other distilleries all over the world are doing it as well, that they have long fermentations, much longer than whiskey usually. And open fermentations, that's usually not what you'll see in whiskey distilleries as well. Plus the use of Dunder and or Muck, as shown. So that's yeah, that's why you get those nice and a nice flavor profiles. I think you get in rum, you might not get in whiskey.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I think it's interesting, right? Because one of the advantages of working for our company, our boss, a guy called Sukhinder Singh, is one of the biggest whiskey collectors on the planet, right? Like he loves his whiskey, and he so wants me to love whiskey as well. And so every now and then he'll be like, try this, and he'll pull out some amazing, like one of his favorite whiskeys in the world is a 1970s Longmorn. And he goes, try this. And he goes, this has this beautiful pink grapefruit flavor, which if you look at the chart, you go, oh yeah, there's some pink grapefruit on this, some of these crazy. Why does it have that pink grapefruit flavor? Because at that time, that distillery did really long fermentations. Now, if you try Longmorn today, it doesn't have that note anymore. It doesn't have that flavor. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's delicious. Can we buy that? And he's
Yeah. No.
like, this would cost you thousands of pounds. And you're like, ah, well, that's why I'm not a whiskey drinker. And it's not that whiskey can't do some of these things. And yes, Dunder and Muck is more specific to us, but whiskey uses stillage. Whiskey uses Dunder. They just call it stillage instead of Dunder
Yeah,
in
okay. But
places.
not mock and not open fermentation, as far as I know, and long fermentations, as long as the Jamaicans do, I think, for example, right? Or am I mistaken?
Uh, Generally, no, right?
Yeah,
But this is the thing. Whiskey could if it wanted to. Whiskey could if
they could. Yeah,
they could do some of these
yeah,
things.
of course.
You
Yeah,
try these older whiskeys, there are some amazing ones out there, but most of it has been commercialized, most of it's been cheapened, most of the
yeah,
fermentation times have shortened. And the key often is just, regardless of all the secret sauce and other bits we play with, if you just give it a really good long fermentation, you're probably going to get some amazing flavors out of it. Like
yeah,
if someone's looking after it who knows what they're doing with it.
yeah,
So yeah, it's but again, this is a great reason why you can get all of this flavor in rum for a fraction of the price of whiskey. And it's the reason why everything on these shelves is rum, and there's a bit of whiskey on the little floor here.
yeah.
So Muck, you asked what Muck was before. Muck's a curious thing because Muck, we don't really know when Muck started, but they started having these what they call graves outside of the distillery, where they were basically taking all the sludge of the fermentation tanks that built up over time and putting them outside in these graves. And what they found was the sludge didn't go away, it just started getting crazier and crazier, and there's becoming these like bacterial fermentations going on. And then so if you go to somewhere like Hampton, they'll have like a trough inside the distillery, which is full of this muck that you have to plunge with like a big oar, and it smells like what is in this? And it's horrible. It's disgusting. But outside the distillery, they have the graves, and this is where like the mother broth of the muck is kept. Because if a distillery burns down, the muck is what keeps it unique and makes it still Hampton or makes it still Long Pond. So they have to have the muck sort of in different places. Otherwise, yeah, if it burns, they're screwed. They lose it all. Um, so yeah, essentially, in its very basic form, as far as we know, it is the leftover sludge from fermentation built up over 200, 300 years. Whether other stuff went into it at some point, we don't know, but that seems to be essentially what they top it up with today. And it's the mother, it's the little secret sauce that they add into these higher ester marks of Hampton. The lower
Yeah.
ester marks don't have it because if you added it, it would make it immediately too high ester, right?
Yeah.
And Hampton say the hardest marks for them to make are the more neutral marks because everything in the distillery is just geared up to make the high ester crazy stuff, and they actually built a separate fermentation hall and separate warehouse just to make low ester rum because it was so hard for them to make. Just the
Mm.
natural air around it just wanted it to be high ester straight away. That's how they've done it for so many years.
Cool.
So yeah, the final blend, final ratios of all of this. We've gone on a few tangents, but this is where we've ended up with on the recipe on the new finest Caribbean. So dropping that Guyana from 60 to 20, up in the Barbados a little bit, up to 40%, putting the Trinidad in 35%, and still that 5% Jamaica. So whether you're old or new, I hope you enjoy it either way, and I hope you enjoy seeing the sort of bridge between the two of them. So, and this just shows you again how the blends sort of coming together. I love a daiquiri with it. It's delicious. You should try it. You should also try Jungle Bird if you haven't already. This is a really nice little recipe. Get fresh pineapple juice. The carton stuff doesn't quite work. You gotta like, if you got a juicer, get some fresh pineapple juice, Campari lime, shake it up. It's delicious. It's one of those drinks that's very hard to get in a bar normally because almost everyone uses concentrate pineapple juice and it never really tastes right. So if you get fresh pineapple, first thing you should make, Jungle Bird. Um, all right, just a little intro into our team. So Sukhinder Singh, who I mentioned a couple of times before, he's the founder of the company. He's the one who first found the flagons, did last consignment, did 40-year-old, put it all together. Ollie, Ollie Chilton is our blender who's done all of these rums that you're trying tonight. And then the other guy just drinks daiquiris, basically. So let's look at our fourth rum tonight, which is the Solera. Well, let's try and get this size right. It's doing crazy things. So Solera rum doesn't have the best reputation, does it? So most rumners, second you say Solera, they're like, get away from me. Which is a shame because Soleras, if done properly, if done authentically, are actually a really cool way of blending, and especially when it comes to rum. And the reason why I dug in a little bit more into the esters with you before is because I want you to sort of have that in mind when we're talking about Soleras. And no one talks about esters in Solera systems, and they should. So this is our Solera system. It exists. It's real. That's the first thing you should always ask when someone says about Solera systems, like show me your Solera, which most people can't, which is weird. But yeah, so this is our Solera system. It's up at a distillery called Tormore Distillery in Speyside, which we bought 3 years ago. So we're making Tormore whiskey, which will be a single malt coming out next year. And Warehouse 2 at Tormore Distillery has our Solera system and all of the casks that we blend for Master Blenders Reserve, Finest Caribbean, everything that we do with Black Tot. So, how does this work? We've got a load of barrels, but each of these rows of barrels is its own ecosystem. So all the ones with S, that's the Solera layer. That's the foundation, the floor, that's where the oldest rum is going to end up. C1 stands for Criadero 1, layer 1. C2, Criadero 2, layer 2. You could have C3, 4, 5, as many as you want, basically, but we have 3 layers. Each one of these is an 800-liter cask. So think bourbon barrels are normally 200 liters. These are 800, 4 times the size. These are proper old sherry casks. They are 70-year-old Oloroso sherry casks from an old sherry bodega. They don't really make casks like this anymore. These are very, very hard casks to get. And so that's one of the reasons why most Solera systems aren't as traditional, if you like, because you can't get these casks. They're so hard to get. And if you've got a massive brand selling millions of bottles of rum, you can't find enough casks like this to do an old school Solera system. You also can't use these casks for Scotch whiskey. So sometimes you'll see Solera whiskies, and they never use these casks because there's a limit in Scotch that says the maximum size of cask is 700 litres. These are 800 litres, so they don't qualify. So sometimes you'll get Solera vats, which are almost similar to what we was talking about in the Navy vats earlier, just topping up the vats and sort of doing blends of different ages. But it's not a true Solera system, and that's what we really wanted to do with this. So let's have a look. First of all, the blend is the old Finest Caribbean blend. So if you like the old one, good. This is for you. This will live on in the Solera. We're going to keep this blend for the Solera system. What we do, we take that blend. So it's already aged, it's already tasting exactly as you've had it here. The only difference is we take this at 60% ABV. We put that into the Oloroso and Pedro Jimenez casks, static casks, not the Solera system. These are 500-litre casks that have just had sherry in them. We've dumped the sherry and we've put this in. Why do we do that? Why do we not just put this straight into the Solera system? Because once you put it into the Solera system, after a few passes, there's no sherry flavor left in those old Solera casks anymore. So there has to be a first step where we infuse this with sherry flavor. And so that's where we put it for 2 years in Oloroso and PX. 2 years to soak up all that sherry. Then that blend of those two casks, that goes into the top of the Solera system. Anyone big sherry lovers here? Anyone like a bit of sherry? Yeah, okay. So if you're not as familiar, Oloroso is bone dry. It's nutty, it's mushroomy, it's earthy, it's a very savory style sherry. Pedro Jimenez is the opposite. It's figs, plums, chocolates, super sweet, super sticky, lovely dessert time sherry. So we go heavier on the dry, so 60% Oloroso, 40% PX, and then that goes into the top of the Solera system. Now, this is where it starts to get a little bit geekier. It goes into the top of the Solera, but you're starting at the bottom. You pull half out of the bottom, or a third to a half out of the Solera layer. That's what you blend and bottle to make this. Then you take the rum out of the first Criadera and fill up the Solera layer. And then you take the rum out of the second Criadera, fill up the first Criadera, and then the new rum goes in at the top to fill up the second. You're never fully emptying the casks. And so the idea is over time, older and older liquid is building up in these casks. The trouble that Solera got into was you had some companies talking about some of the oldest rum in their cask and going, well, we've got some 23-year-old rum in there. Like, cool, let's put that on the label. Now, in sherry, that's more of an accepted thing. If you have a 70-year-old sherry system, they will say, oh, we've got sherry's up to 70 years old in this, and people go, that's really cool. But when you do it for spirits, we're so conditioned by the whiskey world that the number on the bottle should be the youngest in the blend, that when we put the highest number on, people get very upset. Okay. And fair enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, again, they were happy for people to be a little bit like, oh, yeah, 23 years old. Great. So again, we don't put an age statement on this because there is no age statement. It's very hard to say. You could say the rums in here are between 5 and 10 years old. Okay. Weighted average, I did work it out for the first batch, was about 8.6 years weighted average between all the different components and the blends and what went into it. And yeah, sure, okay, in another 15 years, we could stick 23 on the label and make a lot more money, but that's not the point, right? Like, it's about the flavor, it's about what you're creating with it. So why this gets a little geeky, by having these older and older flavors build up, it's going to affect the rum over time in every batch. It will create consistency from batch to batch, but again, that frog in the saucepan that I was talking about earlier, over 10 years and years and years, if you try 10 years from now and the batch now, it'll be completely different. It should change, it should evolve, it should get better, hopefully, if we do the right job with it. We can make about 6,000 bottles currently each year based on moving these through the tiers once a year, and with our current setup. If we ever got bigger than that, we would have to add more casks to the Solera system to be able to make more than 6,000 bottles, but that's currently what the max we could make with the Solera. Now, how this works, when you're pumping the rum out, so you've taken half out the Solera layer, you've got to fill it out. You take rum from, let's say, 1 or 2 casks, you pump it out into a tank, and then you pump it back into the barrels underneath. And then from the top layer, you pump it out, pump it in. When you're doing this, you're oxygenating the rum, okay? And you're also creating a space in which a lot of those little volatiles can evaporate off. Now, we were talking about esterification earlier and how esters don't just come together, but they break apart, come together, break apart. Now, normally that's sitting in a barrel, and the barrel's static, and you'll get a bit of angel share over the years, and some of those volatile compounds are escaping. But if you pump out that barrel and pump it back into the next one and pump out that barrel and pump it into the next one, you're accelerating some of that process and allowing the whole thing to oxygenate a lot quicker. And when you do that, it actually speeds up the esterification system a little bit. Pedro Jimenez is an interesting one because when you try this rum, it isn't really sweet. And you think, well, it's got 40% PX going into that from those casks. Surely there would be more sugar in it. But sugar plus oxygen breaks down into acid aldehydes. Acid aldehydes plus oxygen breaks down into acid. Acid plus alcohol creates more esters. So what this Solera system is actually doing is it's the casks themselves, the wood is very old. It's 70 years old. The wood isn't what gives it the flavor. Why do we not just blend the 60/40 and put it in a bottle? Because the oxygen over time actually creates more esters and it actually esterifies the rum. And we did a test of the rum before the Solera and after the Solera, and it actually doubles the ethyl acetate in those, only going through the Solera for 3 years now, which is really interesting. You wouldn't see that quick of an esterification if it was just static barrels. So what does the Solera system do really? It kind of accelerates ester production, which is kind of cool. If we put higher esters in at the start, we'd probably get something even crazier out at the end of it, which I'm hoping one day we can do. But yeah, so this is our first batch of Solera rum that we've made. It's 46.2%, no added sugar. Um, yeah, what do you think?
I'm curious about this one as well, guys. So very small group. So like Mitch said, if you want to unmute, then let us know or put it in a chat or whatever. I'm not gonna lie. Well, I think I tasted this um, last year. I think Whiskey Life, Mitch, you released it. I think at Whiskey Life. I think I, I'm I wasn't a fan, not at
Yes,
all.
okay.
I think I told you also. But to be honest, now sitting here, I'm not sure what's changed. Maybe I gave it a bit more time with some air, but I do like it now. I do enjoy it now. So yeah, things change. Maybe it needed to settle more. I'm not sure what happened, but it in my opinion, it's really different from last October or September last year.
I find this is an interesting one for me as well. Like certain days, certain times, it will taste different. And sometimes I'm like, this is perfect, just what I want. And sometimes I'm like, that's not what I want at all. Like, I think out of all the rums we've made, this is the most divisive. You either love it or you hate it, or, it really depends on your palate. If you like sherry, that definitely helps because this is such a sherry bomb. Like it's almost a ready-made rum Manhattan going on in here, like it's almost like there's so much sherry coming through in the flavor. So yeah, so for some people that's delicious. Some people they're not a fan. That's okay. Um,
So the sherry bomb thing last year, I thought it was so heavy on the sherry that I didn't like it.
mm,
And now I think it's a lot more balanced, a lot more. I'm not sure how that changed, but I see some comments that people do like it, so that's nice. And
nice.
I have one question of when you oxidize, when you guys are emptying barrels to put into the Solera system and esters form and break down. Is it also true that if you would add more oxygen, that esterification would happen quicker or break down quicker as well? So how would that work?
It's
Very very scientific, but
yeah, it's a good question, and I was talking to there's a great guy. Some of you guys may have met him actually. A guy called Nicholas Root. He's a university professor at the University of Amsterdam here, and he teaches flavor neuroscience, and he
okay.
studies how humans interpret smell and flavor, and specifically how they respond to different types of esters.
Oh, okay.
He's a fascinating guy if you want to nerd out about esters. It's really cool to see some of the studies he does and some of his lectures and stuff. And we were even talking about maybe putting together a more scientific based rum ester tasting for people so that they can actually see like the raw esters by themselves and see how they correspond to flavor and scent and things like that. Um, and he said so much of his stuff is you kind of don't know sometimes, and even for him he was like it makes sense what's happening in the Solera system, but we'd have to add a control in where you just pump a load of rum with oxygen for however long and you see if you get the same result at the end. Like does just the oxygenation do it, or is it that some of these older compounds and flavors in some of the other casks are themselves creating these little mother broths of esters that when the new rum hits it, it's hitting that as well. And it's kind of a combination of all these things. Do you know what I mean? So this is this is where when you get into the blending side, when you get into the aging side, it's you can we can try our best to explain it as close as we can, but sometimes just like that's just how it came out.
You have to let the nature run its course, right? And trust the process.
So we're still trying to figure it out. I mean, we the method we use because we don't have a lot of the fancy equipment, I'd say we're actually oxygenating it more because we sometimes with the Solera you can get special devices where you like feed it in with very little oxygen going from cask to cask and use pipes to do it and stuff and set it up in that way. We just don't have that. So we have our pump that we empty a cask with when we're going to do a bottling, and we're using that on the Solera and we're pumping it out and we're pumping back in. And inadvertently, we're creating more oxygenation when we do that as well. But also, remember, these casks are 800 liters. You've got a much bigger surface area. You've got much more oxygenation in these big casks than you would if you had a smaller cask as well. So even when it's just sitting there aging, it's already getting more oxygen than if it was in a bourbon cask or a quarter cask or something smaller as well. So yeah, it's fascinating. We'll see how it develops over the next few years, and as I say, hopefully over time it gets better and better and better as we go. So
Okay, see you, Arnold. Thanks for joining. Talk to you soon, man. I think the group is getting even smaller. But the highest praise, Rich, comes from Peter, in my opinion, who puts this from the Solera next to the old Finest Caribbean at number one at this point. So, but
yeah,
we have two rums to go still. But okay.
love it. Well,
Cool.
Arnold, thank you for joining, and yeah, I hope you enjoy the last couple of rums when you get a chance as well. Um, so yeah, so that's our Solera. Now, we always designed the Solera we thought it would just be a neat drink or a neat cocktail, but a lot of people, every bartender we've given it to is like, oh, let's try this in a Manhattan. So if you like a rum Manhattan, this makes a delicious one. Um, Rum old fashioned, again, this works incredibly well in that as well. One thing I really like to do is like a rum Negroni. So sometimes I'll do some of the Solera, but sometimes I actually like a mix, like half finest, half Solera, so it's not super sherry heavy. And you can do a little rum Negroni with it. Mm. What I do recommend, oh no, I feel like if I show this to you, you're going to be going to the shops tomorrow to make this happen. So you need to get yourself a special fridge that has a special water reservoir that isn't plumbed in to the mains, okay? Just this its own little tank inside.
Just insane.
And then you can fill it with rum Negroni so that at any time you just have it on tap and you can just enjoy it. So this is
I think I I think
get,
I
get some.
think when Ono and I came to your place a couple of years ago, Chris was at he was he gave us rum or cocktails from your fridge. So
It's
uh,
it's it's an essential bit of bar kit that makes hosting very, very easy. And it's great. You just dump in a bottle of rum or two bottles of rum, bottle of Campari, bottle of sweet vermouth, um,
to go.
and like one bottle of water for dilution, let it chill, and then you've just got cocktails ready all the time.
Yeah. Good man. Hey, quick question about the Solera. So I think it's quite a higher price point, if I'm not mistaken, than the Finest Caribbeans. So this is not really meant for bars, I think, or is it?
How much, sorry?
So because of, I think it's a higher price point than the Finest Caribbean.
Is yeah, it's
Yeah.
usually about 20 to 30 euros more, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah,
So,
so
so do you aim for bars with the Solera as well?
you know what? Like what I would love is for this to be available at a bar, just
Hmm.
as a neat serve or as a ball or old fashioned or something like that. But yeah, I mean for most bars it's going to be Finest Caribbean that you'll see price wise. But if they like their higher end booze, then hopefully something like Solera or Master Blenders will show up. We've definitely had a couple of bars that are getting behind it. You know, you'll see it at places like the Taylor and Fitz's bar. A lot of the hotel bars will have
Yeah.
more higher end rums in them. So
Yeah.
but yeah, if you're out there, you've got some big rum lovers working at those bars, so that always helps as well.
Yeah.
Mm,
Okay.
yeah. So, oh no, I look forward to seeing your new fridge very soon. All right, let's get on to the even geekier stuff. So our Master Blenders Reserve, and we got two for you to try side by side tonight, which is really cool. So we've got our 2021, um, which is pretty much all gone now. I think there are a couple of bottles kicking around still in the Netherlands, but if you like this one, grab it because yeah, it's not easy to find anymore.
Yeah. Maybe pour them out in your glasses already, guys.
Mm, yeah, we'll do a little side by side with them. So let's talk about Master Blenders. How did this begin? Well, 5 years ago, uh, in 2020, it was the 50th anniversary of Black Tot Day, and we wanted to make the world's craziest rum blend. We wanted to just take all of the best single casks that we could find, put them together in a bottle, make something really, really special. Um, I knew it was going to be special, and then Ollie showed me what he was actually blending, and I was like, oh, this is insane. I've never seen a blend like this before. And I said to Ollie at the time, could we put all of that information just on the label for people to see? And Ollie said, I don't know. Because at the time, it had never been done in rum before. It isn't allowed to be done in whiskey before. There was a company called Compass Box who actually tried to do it years ago and they got told off. You're not allowed to put different distilleries, different age statements, all these things on a label because they're worried it will confuse people. But in rum, there's no rule that says you can't. And so we asked permission from all the distilleries and we put it on the back label. Now, when we made 50th anniversary, that was meant to be the only one. We were never going to do this series of every year. And when we blended 50th anniversary, it was March 2020. COVID had just kicked off. We couldn't travel. We couldn't go to the bottling hall. We couldn't go to the blending hall. And normally, if we're blending really rare stuff, we will always go and double check because mistakes happen. Now we couldn't do that, so they sent us back a sample. We tried the sample and we were like, it just smells of Jamaica. Like it just tastes of Jamaica. Like how much Jamaica did you like? And we knew we had some Hampton in there. And we said, we sent them the spreadsheet again. We said, like, you're just meant to add a third of the cask of Hampton in, right? And they went, oh, we added three. Be like if
Yeah,
you
small mistake.
Yeah, it'd be like if you were cooking and the chili came off and now the whole thing just tastes of chili. So we went from one third of a cask to three casks of Hampton. We then began this scramble because we needed to balance out the blend again. So we called up everyone, tried to find more of the other casks that we were using, and we basically rebalanced the blend. Although it went up a couple of percent in the Jamaica, we couldn't quite get it the same. And we ended up we were making 5,000 bottles for the 50th anniversary, and we ended up with an extra third of this rum.
Think whenever.
Like a perpetual reserve that we're topping up every year. And Ollie just looked at me like, I want to say with contempt, just like, what are you talking? No, you can't have open vats of rum evaporating off 10% per year like it's a fire hazard. We'll get shut down. Anyway, when this mistake happened, I get a call from Ollie being like, okay, so you wanted to do that perpetual blend thing. And I'm like, are we building the vats? He's like, we're not building the vats, but I'll take this extra third of the 50th anniversary. I'll put this into sherry casks and we'll use that as the base for next year's rum. And so that first rum went into the 2021, which you're going to try now. Um, and you see the recipe evolve from here. So the 50th anniversary, DDL, Foursquare, Trinidad, Hampton, Caroni, 23-year-old Caroni, some Port Morant, some 42-year-old Port Morant. That's the same as the Black Tot 40-year-old that Gianni and Ono have. So we had that. It was about 5 casks that we had that made up Black Tot 40-year-old. But when we did it, we made 400 bottles, something like that. And there was a little bit left over that we kept in a cask. 2 years later, we did 12 bottles of it for Luca at Velia. And so you might see online a Black Tot 1975, which was same glass, same design as the 40-year-old you have, but it just says 1975 on it. There were only 12 bottles. It was like a real thing for some of Luca's friends and things. And what we didn't know was when we did that bottling for Luca, the bottling hall said, "Oh, this cask looks so old. We're not sure that cask's safe anymore." And they just put the remainder into a steel tank and kept it aside. So when we did the first label for this, it should say 45 years on that component because 1975 to 2020. And then we we found out they're like, oh, we didn't put it back in the cask, we just put it in this tank. So we went back, redesigned the label, changed it from 45 to 42.
Ah, okay.
But that same rum that you have was put in there and the flagons of Navy rum. So the original Royal Navy blend. So basically you've got Last Consignment and the 40-year-old, now 42, plus Caroni, plus all these rums in the 50th anniversary. That became the base for 2021. You see it as one of the components in plus Foursquare, TDL, some Beanley from 2007. And that's a really cool one because you may have seen we've released a new line of rum called Rum Trail, and one of them is a Beanley 2007. This is the sister cask to what went into the 2021 Master Blenders. So if you ever want to try the Beanley by itself, now there'll be a little bit of that which you can try as well
Yeah,
in the Rum Trail series.
you beat me to it. I had this question for the Q&A later.
So yeah, so Rum Trail is kind of us taking some of the sister casks that we didn't blend into master blenders and releasing them by themselves,
Yeah.
plus a few casks which we just thought were delicious and we bought because why not? So that's what Rum Trail kind of is. It's a and for the super geeks like yourselves, you'll be able to find this matches to what we blended here, and yeah, because we got them together as 2 or 3 casks or something at the same time.
Okay.
So let's try the 2021.
Peter has always already finished his, I think.
Oh yeah,
He was really quick.
the 20. Oh, I love it. 2021.
Well, I think you're. This has been a nice lesson in flavors because Peter said that it was really fruity and pineappley, and some other guy also mentioned. Dennis also mentioned, hey, Jamaican. I think, yeah, okay. And then you came with the whole story because I knew the story of the mix up. But still, if just I think Peter, maybe I'm not sure if you've tasted the 50th anniversary, but if you love the first finest Caribbean, please try to get that first, the 50th anniversary. That is, I hands down, that was my best of the whole series. That was amazing. But if you look at also the all the individual components, that is such a crazy rum, a crazy blend of old rums, close distilleries. It is so good. That was always my favorite of the whole series.
Very, very hard to beat that one, I'm afraid. It's
Yeah, it is.
good.
It is. But the last rum comes close. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes, and there is a reason for that, which you will see.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so 21 was the funkiest, fruitiest one we've done. And actually it's really interesting even for me now revisiting this because we have the Australia component by itself in the rum trail now, it now makes even more sense because again, this era of Bean Lee rum, they were experimenting with Dunder and with a they changed up their yeast strain. So most yeast that most people play with outside of wild yeast is just a fairly standard like Saccharomyces cerevisiae. It's a budding yeast that works very well in fermentation, very efficient, very quick, works very well. In this era, they started playing with another yeast strain called Schizocerevisiae pombe, and or Schizosaccharomyces pombe. And pombe is not like regular yeast. Pombe is almost looks like a virus when you see it. So it's called a fission yeast. Instead of budding and blooming and growing like a normal yeast would, the little cells divide and they divide again, divide again, divide again, divide again, and they just sort of split and clone themselves. Um, and this yeast is very inefficient, it's very slow, doesn't work very well, but it's very resilient to more harsh acidic conditions, more harsh alcohol conditions. And so, if you want to create crazy higher ester flavors, it actually works very, very well. So, they slowed down the fermentation to about 14 days. They played with this new yeast strain, they were adding Dunder. And this era of Beanley between 2005 2010 is stunning. Everything post 2010, it's it's good, but it's not like that. And this is from that era. So when you try this rum and then you try 2021, because you look at the percentages, you go, oh, it's only got 5% Hampton. Why is it so funky? And then you go, oh, wait, if you add this and the Bean Lee together, now you've got a real funk bomb that's being blended with here. And that explains why this is so fruity, so high ester as a rum as well. It's delicious. Mm.
It's really good.
And also looking at the blend, we've dropped the Guyana right down on this one. Guyana is a heavy flavor component. When you add a lot of Guyana, it can squash a lot of the fruit. That Guyana, that chocolate, that coffee, that molasses is a heavy flavor, and the fruit doesn't shine as much. On this one, you've got more Trinidad, more Foursquare. So it allows the Beanley and the Hampton, it allows those fruitier high esters to shine a bit more because we don't have as much of that heavier chocolate note. And then some flagons and the 50th anniversary. And yeah. Now, 2021 went into 2022. In 2022, Ollie got a bit excited. He decided to create a super blend of Jamaican rum, which was so expensive, and we would have had so few bottles. It would have cost about 900 euros a bottle, and we would have only had 400 of them. Um, so Skinner said no, but then he'd already blended these Jamaican casks. So then he went, well, what if I create a super blend of Barbados, super blend of Guyana, super blend of Trinidad, and I blend the four super blends together? If you do that, your blend looks like this, and you get 20 different casks of crazy stuff. He then did this for the next 3 years. So 22 went into 23, again, four super blends. 23 went into 24, more super blends, and anyway, so these 3 years were the hardest years for my job to try and explain this rum because it had 20 different components in. It was the most complex rum blend anyone had ever seen. Um, they're delicious. Get them if you can. If you find them, buy them. Each one, each year is very different flavor. But for 2025, my request to Ollie was firstly, can we please go back to what we did in 2020 and 2021, where instead of having 20 different cast components, we reduce it. For me, it was regardless of flavor, just so we can have it on the label and just make make explaining it a little bit easier. And remarkably, he listened. So the idea with this year, 2025, we know, like Gianni said, a lot of people's favorite was the 50th anniversary. And we wanted to go back to where this whole series started, go back to the original. And Sekinda's brief was basically make the 50th anniversary, but on steroids, make it even more crazy and out there, but go back to this idea. Um, Ollie found he still had, so when we blended the 50th anniversary into 2021, he still kept some of the 50th anniversary aside. And he had one sherry butt of 50th anniversary that's been aging for the last 5 years. So he used that in this blend. And now when you see the blend, I like looking at it on the label like this. So you've got a 21-year-old Guyana, you've got a 12-year Port Morant, you've got an 18-year Foursquare, 7-year Foursquare, 11-year Worthy Park, a 27-year-old Caroni, the 50th anniversary that's been aging for another 5 years in the sherry casks, plus the 2024 master blenders, plus some flagons of Navy rum in that perpetual reserve. You can see the breakdown of the 24 and the flagons a little bit better on this one. But yeah, I think it's the most complex master blends we've done so far. It feels like the more sophisticated one. It's a lot drier than a lot of other ones we've done. 50th anniversary had a sweeter chocolate note to it, which I really appreciated, which I really liked. But a lot of people are saying that this, if they like the 50th or the 2022, which was on those lines as well, they really, really like this as well.
This is really good. I'm so glad you guys brought Caroli back. I mean, you went all out with 27 years. I mean, that is insane. But to me, that's really the backbone of this one in the nose and in the taste. It could be the Caroni, it could be the Guyana. One of the two is really the whole backbone, I think, or for the blend. I really, really love this one. I really love this one. Like you said, but it was done on purpose. It hints back to the 50th anniversary a lot. I really enjoy it.
And I think you make a really good point, Johnny, because when you go back through the old blends, we had Caroni in the 2024, and we also had it in the 2022.
Yeah, I think you only in the 21 it wasn't there, I think.
21 and 23, we didn't have it.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
But because there's so much going on, I think it is easy to lose it in the
Yeah.
mix with everything else. So
Yeah.
for me, this by having a smaller range blend like we do in 2025, it gives us a little bit more of a tighter flavor profile, and you can really
Yeah.
go, oh, that's standing out to me. That's, for me, this makes a little bit more sense when you're trying to dissect it and taste it, and it's a little easier to place where those flavors are coming from. So,
Yeah, I really like this one. Curious to see what you guys think of it over there. But
mm.
I've already given my opinion. I think this rivals the 50th anniversary. I should put them side by side. I haven't done it yet because I'm nostalgic and I love the 50th anniversary. But it might lose, so I haven't done it yet. But this is really good in my opinion. But what do you guys think, Peter and all the smokies over there?
Who's in the 21 camp? 21,
21,
21. So two,
three people, I think.
21, yeah.
Okay.
Peter and I can't see who's off screen there, but so
Yeah, there's four people over there. I think three of them are 21, and Peter also, I think. So four in total.
for 25. 25 got one, two. Oh, honors,
Oh, no, oh no! As always,
honor,
is
honor loves all his children
my
equally.
curious. He can't choose. That's why he has so many bottles.
No, it's good, and this is a nice thing, I think the first couple of years when we were releasing master blenders, everyone's question to me and for themselves was like, which one do I like the most? Do I like this one? Is this one the best? Is this one the best? And now this is our sixth edition that we've done now, including the 50th anniversary. And for me, it's like each one has a different time of day, has a different place. Like 25 and the 50th are more like end of night rums. 22 as well. 24 is a bit more easygoing, it's a bit lighter, it's a bit more fresh, you can have
I
that.
like that one as well. The Barbados component really added a very easygoing, subtle, but a complex rum. I like that one as well, to be honest.
Yeah, for me, 24 is a nice daytime rum. 23, 23 is still one of the ones which I think is so interesting because every time I taste it, it has so much going on that sometimes I get more chocolate or more fruit, more spice. 21 when you want a little funk bomb, it's delicious. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's everyone is different, everyone is unique, and it's a really nice series to have, I think. And because we are still a small brand, okay, these are a bit more expensive, but it's not like you're paying the extra 100 for marketing. You're still getting some pretty crazy rums in there at a pretty affordable price for what's in that blend.
definitely. Yeah.
And what I really love is because all of us, no matter how much of a rum nerd you are, we all have some amazing bottles at home. But I'm pretty sure most of us have never been brave enough to go, let me take some Caroni and some 18-year Foursquare and some 20-year Port Morant. Let me just blend all these together and hope it works out. Like it would be an expensive mistake to make. And that's what I love with the master blend. Like no matter what you have individually from these distilleries, I bet you've never had a blend like this together. And yeah, for me, it's a real point of pride that we can share it on the label and really show you exactly what we're blending with here.
Yeah, and I think more and more people notice this transparency. I was at the Whiskey and Romance last weekend,
Yeah,
and I mean, you know Ben. Ben has Tamosi has some really nice blends. The guy knows what he does. It's definitely you guys are out there with the amount of components. Of course, he has a four component aged blend. But such a nice at a very lower price point, of course, then also. But a lot of people who came who were surprised when you told them this is in the blend, and then when I sent them over to Bresson Timbers to try Black Tot, and they were like, "Hey, it was nice to see all of the things written on the label." So I think it works. People are getting more interested in what they're drinking, I think. So yeah, you guys were the first, and I still think you're the only who goes to this length of putting all the information on a blend at this moment. So
Yeah, no,
well done.
my hope is that it inspires other rum brands and other rum blends specifically to add this, because you got to think, even in the time that I've worked in the rum industry and since I started bartending, we're really in a golden age of rum. We've got more information, we've got more access to cool stuff that really never existed 10 years ago. And I hope it continues. I hope we all continue to invest into it and build into it, and it's funny because sometimes you read some of the discussions online, you think, oh, we must be in a really bad time for rum. It's like we've got more rum than we've ever had, we've got more really cool things. So, and I hope in the blend piece of that we're able to really yeah, push things forward for the transparency side. And hopefully most importantly, I hope you like the liquid, and I hope you enjoy the rums, because you can be as transparent as you want, but if it tastes like crap, then it's no good,
Of
so
course, but as I said in the beginning, there's a couple of reasons why I wanted to do this masterclass because of the way you guys operate, right? So transparency, the insane components you guys put in your blends. The rum is tasty, and history in a bottle. Like I said in the tagline, I think it's really history in a bottle. And well, I've met you a couple of times, and I quite like you, so I was like, why not invite this guy for a for a masterclass? So that's why. But oh, Peter is going through the whole range again, I think. But that's really nice. That's what you should do. And I think one of my friends also he made his own blend with all of the
oh
remaining.
yes.
Yeah,
I
okay.
like it.
You've inspired people to blend here, so that's really nice. But I think Ono is waiting for his toast. Are you going to do a toast? I,
Well, in that case,
I,
we're gonna have to unmute everyone then.
yeah, because I have to. I'll do that. 'Cause I have my thought here ready to go. So
Yes, it's
okay,
uh,
It was a great evening, guys. Really. And
okay, good to
I
hear,
had a
Pete.
real, and I'll tell you, I've had problems with the nose and the taste for the last year because of a real heavy, uh, sorry, in Dutch, Johnny, a longstaking.
Yeah,
And,
pneumonia. Yeah,
so I finally have my smell and my taste back since 4 weeks. So I'm so
uh,
grateful for this evening.
Uh, you
uh,
you you were spot on with the pineapples and those kind of things. So I think everything works out in
Yeah,
the
yeah, that's the best.
end. So that's nice. And no, thank you. But thanks for joining, of course. But
Really,
thanks to
really.
everyone for joining. But I also have one other question, Mitch. What's in the 2026 plan? And I think you can guess where that question came from.
good question. Yeah, I don't know. Is the very honest answer to that. They normally will start a conversation around this time. Like we're in the middle of show season right now, where every weekend seems to be filled up with some different show in some countries. So it's all a
Yeah.
bit crazy right now.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so probably the conversation will sort of start around now, and then maybe we'll usually start blending January, February, March kind of time. So
Yeah.
at the moment, I don't know. That's a
You,
good.
you really don't know. Okay, cool.
But yeah. I've got no exciting inroads for you yet, but I'll
Okay.
see you in a couple of months. I might have some more info.
Okay, cool. Okay.
So, Ono's crew,
Information on the
guys
fridge.
have fun.
Do
Did
we
you
get some more information on the fridge?
More information on the fridge. Yeah.
make model?
Yeah, so it's a Samsung fridge. Again, the key is to look for ones that have this but make sure it's not plumbed in. You need something with a water reservoir like this, like a little tank. So that it holds about 3.5 liters, which is perfect if you're mixing 4 or 5 bottles. And
If you have people over, if you have a party, that's amazing.
yeah. My original intention was always to make a clarified milk punch to go in there because they last forever. But I'm so rarely home that in the small windows I am home, it's so much easier to just throw 4 or 5 bottles in. And so rum Negroni has kind of been the staple of the house, or right hand as we call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, perfect. Why would you put water in it? Why? Makes no sense. Like, gonna
Yeah.
go stale.
Water comes
Good.
out of the tap, so
No, you put a Negroni or a clarified milk punch in there. Perfect, really, really good. So
cool.
we need to do a little toast.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So I know some of you have done this before.
Yeah.
So if not, grab some rum. Has everyone got some rum left?
Yes.
Good.
Need to top up anything? Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're going to do this together, and I know we're over Zoom, but we'll say it nice and loud so your neighbors can hear you. Okay. So I'll say the first line, you repeat after me, and you got to do the arm movements. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Good.
So this was taught to me by the guy who taught me about rum, and so it's a very special toast, especially over a few Navy tots. So, all right, there are tall ships.
There
There
are
are
no
tall
ships.
All together. We got to get this nice
Yeah.
and loud. Ready? Okay, shake it off. 6 rums in. Let's do it. There are tall ships,
There
There
are
are
tall
tall
ships.
and there are small ships,
There are
there
small ships.
and there are ships that sail the sea.
There are
and
ships that sail the sea.
But the best ships
But the best ships
are friendships.
are friendships.
So here's to you and me.
Here's to you and me. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mitch.
No,
For-
thank you, Gianni, and thank you for bringing everyone together. I know this is
No problem.
we've
I'm-
talked about this for a long time, and yeah, really appreciate you bringing the group together. So
I'm sorry, there's so many people who actually they bought the sample sets, but they couldn't make it for various reasons. I've been texting along with people, but for all the people here still, just a quick poll. If you guys probably you can see
Oké,
my
jongens, zeg
poll
maar.
now.
21.
If you guys can fill in the poll, I'm really curious on what the best rum of the evening is. But
Yeah, this puts too much pressure on me.
no, take your time, We have all the time.
he's got one. Yeah, nice.
Okay.
And Gianni, did you say that you'd set something up with Richard Blescraft? Is there if people want to buy a bottle or something?
No, so I had some of the sample sets left. And we started talking. No, I asked him if I could bring them to his fest and sell them at the Tamosi stand. And he was like, "Hey, I have a better idea. Why not do a promotion where if people buy 2 bottles of Tamosi or Black Tot?" He came up with Tamosi. I was like, "Okay, but let's do Black Tot as well because it's a Black Tot tasting." If they buy 2 bottles, they get one sample set for free, and they can join the tasting. So
nice.
but there was only one actually. Ono bought a lot of bottles, but from Tamosi, but he already had it set. But one other guy bought a set, but apparently he didn't join as well. So that's a shame. So yeah, he has I think 9 sample sets left, I think. I'm not sure what his plans are with them. To be honest, I think he'll do maybe some promotion with them or something, but they're there.
Well, you should be, yeah. So you should be able to get all of these rums from Richard for sure. So he's
Yeah.
stronghold.
Yeah. So at the stand, they only had Dennis and Jock. They had the Solera, they had the 25 and the 21, if I'm not mistaken, I think. So Yeah, it was really yeah, it was really nice. But I mean, it was a lot of fun. But we only sold one there.
Yeah.
But hey, you triggered me. So when can we expect the new range of rums in the Netherlands, you think?
With the rum trail ones, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Good question. Hopefully soon.
How many expressions are there at this point?
There's 5 different ones in the range.
Okay.
Each one is a blend of only 2 casks or sometimes 3 casks. So the minimum is 400 bottles. The max is 450, 500.
Single estates?
Yeah, each one is a single region. So like this is the Australia one from Beanley, 2007. We have a Belize, we have a Fiji, a Worthy Park, and a 18-year Foursquare as well. My picks from the range are the Beanley is #1 by far. And the Belize, actually, the Belize is delicious. Just a
Okay.
really nice, easygoing, and really affordable Belize, which is nice.
Yeah, so the range is gonna change, right? I think in due time. I mean, yeah.
Only
Okay.
400 bottles, 500 bottles once
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
done, and then we change it and we'll change
yeah,
locations. So just gives us a bit more freedom to do some different regions, different styles.
yeah, yeah. No, I thought for a moment that it was like the Origin series from 1423, right? But it's not. So it's
No,
okay.
yeah,
Good.
different. Yeah.
Hey, and you also triggered me real quick off topic. You said that Demerara are still or DDL are still selling to brokers. I
Mhm.
just had a discussion last weekend with Ben also. I thought they didn't, but they do still sell
Yeah,
bulk rum.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah, it was. I don't really know why that rumor started, but yeah. Look, I mean, there is an element, right, that is just basic commerce where when a distillery is having a good year or a good couple of years, they're gonna try and start stockpiling more of their rum and aging more of their rum on site. Um, at the same time, when they have a bad year, they're going to sell more rum. So a lot of it is.
And with good and bad, you mean quality wise, not volume wise, right?
Oh, I mean, how many of you are buying bottles of rum?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, sales wise. Okay, okay,
If
okay.
if you're all out buying, the
Eldorado, whatever. Yeah.
Esters Eldorado and the 12-year and the 15-year and the 21, and you're pounding
Oh, is dat de post?
going. If they have a slow year, they're going to sell more bulk rum, So
Yeah. Okay.
these distilleries are constantly in cause and effect and trying to predict what happens in the next 5-10 years versus what they can physically make.
Yeah.
So Hampton's going through a little period of it now, right? Like a lot of we used to be able to buy a lot of Hampton casks very easily, and then Hampton suddenly shot up, and now it's quite hard to buy a Hampton cask because they're trying to build up their warehouses more and more and more and keep more for themselves. But if they have a slow year, we might be able to get some really cool casks, So
Yeah.
so it's you know uh, sometimes we look very black and white at this whole tropical continental aging and things like
Mhm.
that. It's like who has lots of rum, who needs to sell lots of rum, who's trying to build lots of rum up, and sometimes it's just purely that,
Yeah.
it's like they might not sell old casks, but they might sell fresh rum, or they might say no, we can only make enough to fill up all of our casks that we have. Um,
Yeah. I thought Hamden was one of the ones ever since Luca was there. I mean, started doing the sales and or the distribution that they didn't sell anymore to well, probably to Scheer unaged probably, but kept a lot of stuff in their own warehouses. I think they released a 15-year-old at Whiskey Life a couple of weeks ago or no? Yeah.
delicious, very 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 nice.
Yes. Yes, I was so bummed that I wasn't there. But okay, the poll. Oh, okay. I think you guys over there, you entered just one thing. So then the 2021 is the overall winner this evening. Okay,
Correct.
Yeah.
cool. Thank you so much. A big thanks to Mitch. Thank you so much, man. I've been wanting to do this for ages. To the others, thank you so much. We'll see each other at another taste.